12:30, we ready to rock and roll? All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our August 31st Legal and Finance Committee. Let's start with a roll call and determination of quorum, please.
Armstrong. Here. Roseland. Here. Solomon.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Nordstrom.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you so much. I've had a personal request to make sure everybody speaks up so everyone can hear us. We are now going to move to the adoption of the agenda. May I have a motion, please?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Solomon and a second by Mr. Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Motion carries. Moving on to general public comment. This is a time for the member of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue that is not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at this meeting or on any issue not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. Do we have any speakers? No? Seeing none? All right, we will close that and move on. Consent items 1 through 24. Let's start with the fire department. 2 through 5. Chief Culberson, you have the floor.
Yep, I do now. All right. Number 2 is just to purchase a new ambulance. With the current climate, we have to get in queue quite early. At this point, they're 2 years out, so we are going to take advantage of a already existing agreement to purchase this new ambulance and get it coming now. And we're using Savick purchasing contract, so a buying group. So let's see. Number 3, I'm requesting 3, 4, and 5 are for sale of our property, city property, up off of Promise Road, right across from Station 6. These lots, past resolutions, as you'll see that are attached, are for the sale, are for use by the fire department for Station 1, Station 2, and training, or just for fire department use. I am requesting that number 3, the sale of Lot 3, be pulled indefinitely. The request is there's some unresolved issues with DOT as they're redoing the South 16 interchange that will affect that lot and its potential sale. So we're just going to pull that one for now, and the other 2 lots that are contiguous together, we'd like to sell.
Thank you, Chief. Moving on to the Finance Department, numbers 6 through 12. Director Sumption, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Number 6 is standard for our volunteers to get them on our worker comp insurance. 7, the sales tax through June of 2022 is 8.76% more than the first 6 months of 2021. Number 8, the July general fund cash balance was about $23.8 million. 9, we have a couple different things that various departments are surplusing. 9, I believe, is the one for IT, and we're actually going to send them to recycling. Jim was able to find a company that would not charge us to take our electronics for recycling, so that would open the door to be able to do that. 10, yesterday the Public Works Committee heard a request to go out to bid for some major maintenance and repairs needed on the parking ramp, as well as enclosing the stairs and to keep them from the elements and redoing some of the stair tread issues that they have going on. To do so, we are requesting a $4 million interfund loan between the general fund and the parking lot and area fund. I got some quotes from the various banks in town as far as the interest rates that they would charge, and it's more than what we are currently earning on our money in the banks, and so I thought I could find a happy medium and do an interfund loan at 3%, and it would be over, I believe I said 10 years. Through their operating revenues, they could always pay it off early. There is about $2.6 million cash in that fund right now. So if there's overages too, they have money to back it up. So it should not be more than the $4 million. 11, I know it sounds weird to be doing this already, but we need to set our year-end meeting so that way we can have you guys hopefully plan a little bit so we can have a quorum. But we're looking at December 27th. The 26th is actually the city holiday with Christmas falling on a Sunday. And for the newbie on the committee, I will say that this is something that we do typically to do our final bills, get those paid for the year, as well as do the second reading of the final supplemental appropriation for the year. There have been other issues that get added also, but those are the two main ones that we look at that last meeting of the year. And then 12 is another piece of equipment that is being surplused to put on an online auction.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Director Sumption. Moving to Director Fisher for 13 through 23, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the first two items on the agenda are in relationship to the dissolution of TIFs. The balance of the items are in regards to our CDBG program. With your permission, Madam Chair, I would like Sarah Hansel to give brief descriptions of the TIF items and Michelle Schulke on the CDBG items. And as she's approaching the lectern, the reason I do this is they work really hard on these projects, and I want them to get credit for work done. Thank you.
So much. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Item 13 is a resolution to dissolve tax increment district number 50. This was the federal beef tax increment district that was created to acquire property and assist in the cleanup and redevelopment of the Founders Park area. That TIF has paid off, and so this resolution is to close out the district. Item number 14 is a resolution to dissolve tax increment district number 74. Excuse me. This district was created to extend East Minnesota Street, and in this particular tax increment financing district, the project was never completed, and the 5-year timeline has passed, and so we need to dissolve this district as well.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Schulke, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Items number 15, 17, and 20 are in relation to the reallocation of Community Development Block Grant CARES Act funding in the amount of $450,000. This amount was previously awarded to projects that did not proceed. The amounts have been approved by council. These are the contracts associated with that funding. Number 16 is seeking authorization for a contract amendment for, again, CARES Act funding for Wellspring. What they'll be doing is reallocating that in addition to the $100,000 that's allocated on item 17 for a very similar program, but we did want to clean up the language in that they're still serving adolescent youth in behavioral and substance abuse issues through a public service. Item 18 is seeking authorization to sign a contract assignment for the FY21 mid-year funding that was allocated to Common Bond Communities. This assignment contract ensures that the obligations that Common Bond Communities had agreed to will also carry over to this other organization. They are affiliated, and the reason for the structure is for low-income housing tax credit purposes. Number 19 is seeking authorization to sign another assignment to Adult Day Center of the Black Hills. This organization purchased a property that had funding, CDBG funding in it. Number 21 is related to documents to sell, seeking authorization for our director to sign documents related to the sale of a property that we are under control of currently. It was previously surplused. Number 22, authorization to sign contract for 2022 funding for Wavy. And number 23 is to sign the CDBG agreement with HUD between the city and HUD itself.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along, City Attorney's Office, number 24. Ms. Wu, you have the floor.
This is just a youth city council request to spend a certain amount of money, $200 for materials for the crisis line campaign.
Okay. Do we want to hold off on 26? We can just do questions now? Okay. I will open this up to questions, Mr. Nordstrom made me aware that he would like to pull number 10, as did you, Mr. Solomon. Mr. Jones, do you have any numbers? Correct.
Yes.
Mr. Roseland? No. Okay. Mr. Solomon, any more?
No, I was just going to pull item 3 to table it. Thank you.
Okay. Let's start with Mr. Jones for 3, 4, 5, 10, and 14, correct?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chief, items 3, 4, and 5, how, it said this is to list these properties with a realtor to sell them. How was the realtor that's going to be handling these decided upon?
We went through a process, called around to some of the real estate agents and had them give proposals. And we evaluated their proposals and then selected the final, which is RE/MAX.
So there was a process in place to select, it wasn't just someone's buddy?
Yeah, we didn't throw a dart, no.
Okay. That's very important, that the public's business be done in an upfront way and visible, so I thank you for that. Are we totally pulling 10, or should I ask my questions on 10?
I'm just trying to figure this out. Should we agree on everything and then make questions? I think we should do that, right? Yeah. All right. I will look for a motion
I
pulling.
move to approve items 2 through 5.
I would do 1 through 24 with the exception of 3, 4, 5, 10, and 14. Am I reading that right? Okay, I'll take that motion.
So I'll make a motion to approve items 1 through 24 with the exception of 3, 4, 5, 10, and 14. Sure.
I'll take a second by Mr.
Yep.
Roseland. All
We
in
want to do it
favor?
right.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Madam Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Nordstrom. Okay, Mr. Solomon, you have number 3.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'm just having a hard time hearing the folks. I've got questions on 10, 13, 21, and 24.
Can we amend that motion, please, to include 13, 21, and 24? And for
So what's the motion now?
to approve everything on the consent items with the exception of 3, 4, 5, 10, 13, 14, 21, and 24, correct? Correct. Okay.
Okay.
Are we good with that, Mr. Nordstrom?
We are good.
Super duper, thank you. Okay, Mr. Solomon, you have the floor, number 3.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I'd like to make a motion to table item 3. If I can get a second to retain the floor real quick. I'm sorry, what was that?
There's no discussion on tabling motions,
Oh, excuse me.
so you can't table it and then have the
Okay.
floor, sorry.
Actually, I'll speak on number 4 because it's really related.
Yeah,
so
because should it be tabled or just removed, or is that effectively doing?
it's the
okay.
same thing. So we'll,
Same thing.
for number 3, we'll go ahead and make the motion to table. If I can get a second and then go to item 4.
A motion to table it by Mr. Solomon, second by Mr. Jones. And we have to revote
Say vote on item 3.
on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And Madam Chair, may I talk about number 5 and 4?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I just think it's important for the public to know what we're doing here on these properties. The council's aware, but will you say why we're selling these properties and what the purpose of this is, just for everybody to get up to speed?
Madam Chair? I appreciate that. Thank you for that question. We're selling these properties in order to fund some other building projects that are more appropriately needed. What these funds will go to is further development of our property out at the training site. So, and as it pertains to Station 1, one of the things that we need to do is get our maintenance facility, expand it, and move it off of site since we have no room for them any longer. So that will move out to the Creek Drive property and expand and be able to have an appropriate maintenance facility out there. the other portions in hopes, depending on how much this sells for, and then we'll take the excess of that and continue to develop some of the indoor training facility and some storage, which we are grossly in need of. We have actually some of our equipment that's being stored at one of our division chiefs' personal shop building at this point. So we need to find some places to be able to put our items. And then hopefully further development of the training site.
And I appreciate your agility. So the public would be concerned, will this impact response time in a negative way?
No, this will have nothing to do with response time. It'll enhance our services, allows us to do proper training, store our equipment, and do proper maintenance, and actually be able to expand a little bit of our maintenance and allow us to do it more in-house than we do currently today.
Excellent, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Moving along to number 4, Mr. Jones. 4 and 5?
Yeah, I just asked what.
Great. I have a motion to approve 4 and 5. May I get a second, please?
Second.
Second by Mr. Roseland. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Moving along, number 10, Mr. Nordstrom, you requested to speak on this item. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to kind of give you a little background on this one, there was considerable conversation yesterday at Public Works about this structure and what they needed for the improvements to take place on there, which is desperately needed. It was to find a funding source, and with the finance director's input, this looks like a very good source to do the funding for this project. The Planning Commission, the Historic Preservation Commission also had input into this, and very good questions were asked, and primarily had to do with security from their point of view. And then if you had an opportunity to hear the presentation yesterday, you'll hear the conversation about the security concerns. And then the biggest concern that I have is the rust that is starting to take place there, and what's spalling on the concrete. And so in efforts to keep this parking ramp in a good condition, there's a lot of things that need to be addressed, and that's why the amount that we're seeing here that needs to be for the loan. And look forward to seeing this project come about. And then I'm sure we'll be seeing more on this as it comes forward on the bids and the contracts and everything else that has to do with the maintenance that has to do with this facility. And I would urge you to get a chance to take a look at all of the condition of the, especially the electrical components that are on this facility. So with that, that's all I have at this point, and hopefully this will pass with everybody's approval.
Thank you, Mr. Nordstrom. Mr. Solomon, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I direct a question to, I suppose, Ms. Sumption, Director Sumption? A couple of things, Pauline. For one, is this built into our 23 budget if we were to take this loan out from the general fund?
No, but there should be cash available to do so.
Is it undesignated cash or? Okay.
Correct.
Two, so it's the city borrowing money from the city. So what happens if the city fails to pay?
That typically doesn't happen, but I guess you could forgive the loan at some point if the council chose to.
Because it's coming from the parking fund, I'm imagining the parking lot fund. And we have had that where we've had interdepartmental transfers and perhaps loans, and sometimes they don't have good income generators to fully pay for it, and so it's then falls upon the rest of the taxpayers rather than the fee payers. And that's my only concern, is that kind of risk. Would you say that's a high or low risk in this situation?
I would say it's extremely low risk unless the council chooses to completely revamp the parking system that we currently have in place, which I honestly don't foresee happening. Of all the interfund loans that we've had that I've been aware of, been involved with, we have not had one default.
Okay. How many loans have we done like this?
Oh geez, lots.
Quite a few, right? And our track record is pretty solid on this, with you at the helm at least.
Yeah, and before, I mean, I came in on the tail end of some. The Civic Center at the time had taken out loans for that cafe area, the food court area. They've taken out interfund loans for other items as well. The stormwater fund, we did an interfund loan for that and repaying that. We've done some, I think, with ambulance. So, and quite honestly, there'll be another one coming forward for ambulance, probably at the next round of meetings. But yeah, the risk is really low. However, if the council did decide that there was enough funds in the loaner fund versus the loanee fund, then they can convert it to a transfer if you chose to do so. I just have never seen that done. It's just been paid in full.
And what is the interest rate we are charging for this loan?
3%.
So the taxpayers in the general fund could see a benefit by having this loan in place.
Correct, because we are currently receiving less than that on all of our accounts.
I know folks think it's funny, but you have the parking people who pay a fee, which is different than the tax that we collect. So I want to make sure that those are distinguished to us, even though the citizens may not understand that completely, but.
And so by doing it in-house, it saves the parking lot and area fund money because we offer up a lower interest rate than the banks would do, and it gives more interest revenue to the general fund as well than what they can
And we
earn.
don't do this for everything else because we don't always have that kind of cash on hand to make a loan with.
That's correct.
All right. I'm just getting all of that out there to make sure that folks understand why we're doing what we're doing. I'm supportive of this. Thank you for answering my questions.
Absolutely.
Good discussion. Let's go to Director Fisher, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is an enterprise fund for our parking, and it's an extremely healthy fund. A lot of that has come about because of our electronic meter system, and we look forward to seeing increased revenue as we're expanding the usability of those meters each and every year. I really appreciate that Pauline found this funding source for us. Again, looking at the balance of our enterprise fund, concerned about what interest rates are today, to get this amount secured at 3% really helps us preserve our parking fund because we've got plans going forward and good use of that money. So thank you for your support on this one.
Mr. Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure who to direct this first question to. Is there any initial plan or design or anything for the parking ramp, or are we just looking at getting the funding in place? I'm not sure who wants to take that.
So, yes, there's a detailed plan, and we did present it at Public Works Committee yesterday. If you have a chance to watch that, we did have a representative from the engineering firm come forward and give a PowerPoint presentation. It really is looking at the surfacing, the seams that are failing within the parking structure, the lack of sealant that's currently on the concrete surfacing that causes erosion, and even though we have done maintenance in the past, continues to be corrosive and eroding, we are now putting a sealant down, which is one of the primary line items resulting in this fee that has shown in other facilities such as this to significantly preserve the integrity and life of the structure. The stairwells are another issue where the weather is eating away at the stairs themselves. We also have had staff and other folks that use them fall during inclement weather. So in working with Historic Preservation and an engineering firm, have come up with a design to enclose them, leaving the top and bottoms open so they'll still be cold in the winter and hot in the summer, trying to deter from any loitering within this area, but will greatly preserve the integrity of that part of the parking structure. We looked at the parking structure that is currently over at the county, and some of these features are already in place. And so in implementing that, it should help us reduce the cost of continued maintenance going forward.
So anyone who would like to look at that can go to the city's website, access the Public Works meeting of August 29th, and they'll be able to see that and look at it at their leisure.
Perfect.
August 30th?
August 30th, yesterday.
Yesterday, okay? August 30th, even better. So they won't see it on the 29th.
They won't.
And so, and obviously, there's been discussion about the design integrity and staying with historic qualifications and that kind of thing. I know that that matters a lot to a lot of people. The rust on there is just old, not historic, right? So the rust is going to go?
You know, I'm starting to change my opinion of aging and historic, so.
Very good. For Director Fisher, Chairman? Thank you. I really appreciate my colleague, Mr. Solomon's questions about the interloan transfer, because it can be confusing. It is allowed by state statute that cities can do that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that's, I mean, it's black and white, allowed to do business. It's very, very wise in this case to do so, and it's a big one, but that's okay. We can afford it, and it's a great way to move forward. Thank you.
Excellent discussion. I'd welcome a motion on item 10.
Move approval of item 10.
We have a motion by Mr. Jones, a second by Mr. Solomon. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 13. Mr. Nordstrom, you pulled this. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I can have a question for Sarah Hansel, please.
Go ahead. She's approaching the podium. Go ahead, Mr. Nordstrom.
Ms. Hansel, let's see, as I'm reading this over, it looks like this project this is the one that's getting completed, and that's why we're dissolving it. Would you go through the amounts that we started off with for the increment financing part of it, and then what the value of the property is for today?
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. This district was created in 2004. At that time, the assessed base valuation of the property within the boundary was about $9.2 million. Last year, the current valuation is over $50 million, so it's seen quite a substantial increase in valuation. Does that answer your question, Mr. Nordstrom?
Yes, it's almost like a 500%. Forgive me on the math part, but a 500% increase. So it's a good project. It was one of the better TIFs that we've done within the city, and looks like we have a good product now with the housing and the business location that we have in place right now. So thank you for the report and the update.
Any other questions?
That's all I have.
Any more questions for Ms. Hansel? If not, I'll welcome a motion. Motion to approve by Mr. Solomon, second by Mr. Roseland. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 14, Mr. Jones.
Thank you. Question for Ms. Hansel, if I may?
Please.
Sarah, thank you for your presentation. At the end of number 14, you were saying this one was being dissolved or closed off because the project wasn't completed. Can you maybe give us some details as to why the project wasn't completed?
Thank you. So it's not uncommon for a TIF district to not have all project elements completed. That's something that we see fairly regularly. In this instance, there is you could call it a companion TIF or an overlapping TIF that's associated. TID number 65 was also created to extend East Minnesota Street. That tax increment district is still active, is certified, and is in the process of paying off. In fact, we expect that one to pay off here shortly as well. So TID number 74, which is before you today, was specifically to extend phase 2 of East Minnesota Street. I don't have the exact details on why the construction didn't go forward. There's a variety of business or economic reasons that didn't happen. But because it didn't, we no longer need to keep that tax increment account open, and so that's why we're closing it today.
So if there's something, is there something else in place to fund that part of the project, or is that part of the project just not going to happen for now?
The second one.
Not going to happen for now. Okay, thank you.
Director Fisher, you have the floor.
Thank you. So this is the eastern portion of East Minnesota Street on the east side of Elkville Road. the developer that came forward with this project owns the property on both sides of this future right-of-way, which really is to benefit, because for it to work, you need to benefit from development on both sides. In this particular case, there have been utility capacity issues in this area, and so it didn't warrant that we increase that density for the residential units until the city addresses those off-site improvements. We anticipate that once that does happen, we'll either see another TIF or the developer will be in a position where they will include them as a part of their development. Yep.
Any more comments? Not, I'll welcome a motion. A second. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Jones, a second by Mr. Roseland. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to number 21, Mr. Nordstrom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Probably Michelle is the correct person on this from the Community Enrichment Division Manager. If she's got a little story and background for this property, I think it would be interesting for the council to hear it, because it's been on the, there was a lot of issues with this property, so if Ms. Schulke can address some of those backgrounds a little bit for the council, I think it's kind of helpful.
Mr. Nordstrom, I believe Director Fisher would like to speak.
Thank you,
That's
Madam
fine
Chair.
with me.
Michelle could probably do a better job, but she has left the meeting, Richie. In this case, this is a property that has been gifted to the CDBG program, to the division, and in doing so, we have found that it has been costly. In the summertime, we have to hire someone to mow the grass. In the wintertime, again, it's the snow removal. It's a very, very small lot, and so as a part of disclosing this and putting it for sale, we're also identifying the limitations associated with a residential lot that doesn't meet minimum lot size requirements. It does fall under the category of a small lot, so we can't deny a single-family home, but it will be very small with limited setbacks.
Mr. Nordstrom, did that answer any questions?
It does, and I think it's important everybody understands the issues that are going to be, shall I say, coming forward as the new property owner takes ownership, and hopefully we can do what we can with the assistance that we have on the books now for codes and regulations and everything else that needed to assist the new property owner. So looking forward to this property being sold.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nordstrom. Okay, we have a motion to approve by Mr. Solomon. If I could get a second.
Second?
Second by Mr. Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on to item 24. Mr. Nordstrom, you have the floor again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request that's coming from the Youth City Council, and I think our city attorney that's at the podium now or on the dais is Kinsley Grote, has more information on it. But I just became the liaison for the Youth City Council, so I'm still getting up to speed on what is taking place there. But my biggest concern is the process that we're going through. We need to have some more discussion on the process. And I don't want to take the time up today with that discussion, but I feel as a council to assist this Youth City Council, we need to have a discussion on the process. So I'm in full support of this agenda item, and hopefully we can help the Youth City Council with some other additional activities that are about to take place. That's all I've got.
Agreed. Thank you, Mr. Nordstrom. I welcome a motion. Motion by Mr. Roseland.
Second.
Second by Mr. Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Moving along, we have our public comment, or non-consent public comment open? Nobody, and we'll close that. Moving to item number 25, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6551 regarding supplemental appropriation number 3 for number 22. Anything to add to that, Director Sumption?
I know it says it on there, but this is for what we call encumbrances from 2021, I believe. Nope, that's on the next one. This one is the police department one, where they're adding $1.2 million to their budget, I believe.
Okay. Any discussion, questions, comments, concerns, complaints?
I'll move to approve.
Mr. Nordstrom has a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Jones. Mr. Solomon, you sure? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Number 26. Authorize staff to collaborate with the Monument and Visit Rapid City to hire Oxford Tourism Economics for up to $12,000 for the city's share to conduct an economic impact study to determine the economic impact of the monument on the regional economy. Gentlemen, it looks like we have Brooke Kaufman, President and CEO of Visit Rapid City, as well as our very own Craig Baltzer from the Monument. If we have any questions, if they want to discuss, you both have the floor.
Madam Chair, members of council, thank you so much for this opportunity. So I will make this quick. It doesn't seem nearly as interesting as interdepartmental loans, but we're going to work on it. So I just wanted to touch base briefly. You have the information in your packet. We received a proposal from Oxford Economics, which also has a separate division called Tourism Economics. And one of the things that we're very interested in is determining the economic impact or the value of the monument to our community, both from a quality of life perspective, sales tax, jobs, earnings, but then also to the visitor economy. The last time the facility had anything even similar done was 2012. Obviously, the community made an enormous investment in the Summit Arena within the last 12 months. That project has come online. And I think it's really important as something that generates both quality of life, reasons for people to live here, and the visitor economy, that we understand and we all speak from the same page when we talk about the value of that facility. So would it be possible for somebody to go in and do this on their own? Absolutely. But I think the value in the partnership is, one, we diverse, I guess, the expenditures from multiple organizations, but number two, we all share the data so that we're not saying one person says this, one person's economic study says this. So I think from the visitor economy perspective, it's one of the most critical facilities that we have in Rapid City. I want to be able to speak to that so that there is no question as future potential capital investments come down the line or things need, we come up with things that are really important that might drive the visitor economy, i.e. a sports commission, that we understand what that building does drive. So with that, I would turn it over to Craig if he has any comments, or I would entertain any comments from the committee or questions.
Mr. Baltzer, you want to speak?
Yes, just briefly, I was here to support Brooke on this effort. I want you to know that to us at the monument, that 2012 study came under some scrutiny because the monument paid for it, and it looked like it was a self-serving. It would look like it was something that the staff at that time, I wasn't here, but was using as a tool to show everybody how great of a job they're doing. I want you to know that we're pretty confident we're doing a good job, and we hope you feel the same way. When Brooke came to us with this possibility, because they would like this data for their own information, I thought this is a great opportunity. We can be a part of it. We're not leading it. We're not, trudging it through. As she pointed out, we have grown since 2012 quite a bit. It would really be good for our numbers, and we felt that the city would also have value in that, knowing our numbers. This kind of data will help us on where we're going in the future. I want to remind the council that we book events there for 3 reasons. One is for community gathering, a place for people to socialize and enjoy. Number 2, booking our bottom line. Both those 2 things are easy to quantify and to know what our numbers are. But 3, and probably one of the most important reasons, is economic impact to the community. And that there's no real way to account for other than us throwing out numbers like this is how many people attended this event. So a study like this is very important. Us, I think the city, and certainly Visit Rapid City.
Thank you. If you two could stand by, we have 2 council members in the queue. Mr. Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When Brooke introduced herself at a breakfast meeting held at the Monument a few months ago. She mentioned a lot of things that she wanted to do and that she was going to hit the ground running. Well, she's already run through 3 pairs of shoes, I think, because she has definitely hit the ground running. And this is one of the things that she mentioned, the importance of this kind of a study at that morning breakfast, and it's excited to see that this is going to happen now. We have some shining stars in Rapid City. We have the Monument. We have our downtown. We have many things in Rapid City that are beautiful. We have our Main Street Square. So many wonderful things in Rapid City. And this study, in my opinion, allows us to dissect the coolness and really find out what makes it tick. Would that be a fair assumption? And so to do this will provide us with tremendous information to be able to enhance the experiences that Mr. Balzer has stated and the work that the City Council has to do now, tomorrow, and in the future. So this is an exciting step. I'm proud to see the Council taking these kind of giant steps forward to improve our community, to improve how we spend the taxpayers' money, and just make an overall difference in what we're doing. And I think this is going to be a tremendous way to do it. I'm really looking forward to the results of it, because if we listen to our experts, they do a study, they do research, and they bring it to us. I believe we are wise and better off if we listen to them and help to use that information to guide our decision making. Because simply because we are elected and seated up here does not make us the smartest people in the room. We're smart when we listen and take action based on good data and good research. So I thank you for doing this, Brooke. Mr. Balzer, thank you for your explanation and role in it. I think that's wise, the role that you're going to take in it, and just very much looking forward to it happening. So thank you.
Mr. Jones. Mr. Solomon, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairwoman. First of all, I will make a motion to authorize these funds. If I can get a second to retain the floor.
Okay, motion by Solomon, second by Mr. Jones.
A couple of things. For one, Mr. Balzer made a great point, and that point was this. The reason sometimes we use third parties to do these studies isn't because we can't do some of them ourselves. It is so that it is objective, so that when you are saying that this had a certain impact on our community, a lot of us, Craig, you, me, Laura, we were part of bringing that to life, along with many other people's fingerprints. We want to be able to prove it through an outside source that says, hey, don't just take our word for it. Here's an outside source. So I think, for one, I think that's wise. Two, I would love to hear from our Dynamite leader of Visit Rapid City, Brooke Kaufman, about what this study will allow you and your team to do. So when you get the data from this team, what will that allow you to take that data and do?
I think one is that we would be able to tie directly jobs, earnings, sales tax collections, what the impact is on our businesses in our community, so the bottom line growth that it drives, so it would be direct. Some indirect benefits, so how that money cycles through, and then induced, how the employees of the monument spend their money. But I think, too, what it's going to show us is the economic impact of some of the events that are held there. So right now, we're working on that through a different calculator to say, what's the value of the stock show? What's the value of a state tournament? But I think we can look at those and be really strategic as we go forward and say, we know when we make these decisions, this is where we're going to get the greatest impact on the asset, right? From a time perspective, from an investment perspective. So it's going to give us just a great roadmap to follow to how do we maximize our return on that facility.
And you referenced in your initial remarks about the Sports Commission. Would you briefly give the council a summary of what this Sports Commission might be, not only the council, but the public as well?
Absolutely. So during my interview process, one of the things the community kept saying to me loud and clear is, we've tried to have an organized effort to drive youth sports in our community, but we just haven't been able to get it off the ground. So Visit Rapid City said, we'll provide a structure and some money, just as some seed funding to stand this thing up. So we hired a consultant out of Arizona, Huddle Up Group. They came the first time and did a facility analysis for us. So out of 100% that you can rank, Rapid City right now is ranked 41. So they're coming back in September to say, if you're going to start closing the gap on facilities, this is where your top priority should be for investments. This is where your opportunity is to win on the type of youth sports tournaments. The other thing in the city, and all of you just got an invite to this today, the other thing that's really important is that the city owns many of the venues that are going to impact our success with the Sports Commission. So we need to be really strategic about leases and language and how we work together to make sure that we're actually successful in this effort, and we don't just talk about it, but we actually get it done.
You know, and it's a big deal when we talk about, and we want to have major concerts and events, but we know a lot of that bread and butter is multi-day sports tournaments and events around the state and even around the country and region that come here. And so we know that that kind of impact can be significant.
You're spot on, Councilman. You're absolutely right.
So I think this is an easy win, obviously $12,000 to get awesome data that will help us make good decisions moving forward with this. Happy to support it. Thank you for your leadership, both of you, on this, and I yield. Thank you.
Mr. Roseland, you have the floor.
How many fingers does it take?
There you go. This is Ms. Kaufman. Thank you for the question. I'd like to know where the $12,000 is coming from, and is there anybody else contributing to that amount for the study?
Councilman Roseland, that's a great question. So the total study is $35,000. Visit Rapid City is proposing that we pay a third of it, which is $11,600. We're proposing the monument pay $11,600, and then we're asking the city to pay the other $11,600. So those three partners.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for the question.
And we also have the finance officer in the queue. Director Sumption, you have the floor.
Please add a funding source to your motion.
Well,
Solomon.
I will adjust my motion and include good old undesignated cash to pay this up to $12,000.
Is that okay with the seconder?
Sure.
Okay. Amended motion to include the funding source. We're all in agreement. We do have Mr. Nordstrom wanting to speak as well. Mr. Nordstrom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question for Ms. Kaufman, please.
Go ahead.
Brooke, not too much has been mentioned about the other partners that have been lined up for assisting on this program and this study. So could you tell us a little bit more information about the partners that are going to be helping us out on this study?
Absolutely, Councilman Nordstrom. Thank you again for the question. So the three partners that will participate to get to the $35,000 is my organization, which is Visit Rapid City. The second organization is the Monument, and Craig can speak to the funding source of his, but I'm assuming out of the BBB. And then the third would actually be the City of Rapid City. So, Craig, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
Just the fact that, just to let the council know, we did pass this through our board this past week. So it's already passed through our board. We're gung-ho. The funding source is us. It wasn't in our budget, so we are going to be working through some of our funding magic over there. It probably will come from some of our capital.
Mr. Jones?
Thank you. And then could you share with us a little bit more information about the Oxford Economics/Tourism Economics Group?
Thank you, Councilman Nordstrom, for the question, Madam Chair. So tourism economics actually is a division of Oxford Economics. They're just over 40 years old. They really are a best-in-class research firm. So many of you are familiar with the South Dakota Department of Tourism. Every year they do their economic impact study that talks about jobs, earnings, how many people come to the area, how long they stay, how much they spend. Visit Rapid City is actually in a contract with them right now to take that information for the state and distill it down to Rapid City specifically. So we will have our first draft report from them later in September, but they really are, and it's in your packet, you can see they've touched destinations all over the world. They really are, they set the standard for research in communities like ours, so that's why they were selected.
Thank you. And the final question is, if I read it correctly, this is an 8-week study, 8 weeks. We're going to get this all done in 8 weeks?
So 6 weeks from the time we get them the data, so assuming Craig and I can move it, it will be in 8 weeks.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing this report.
I look forward to sharing it, and thank you for your questions. Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nordstrom. Mr. Jones, you have the floor.
Thank you. When Brooke and I had the opportunity to have lunch the other day, we talked about a lot of things about the city. And I'm very excited to hear about the Sports Authority and that moving forward. One of the things that I mentioned to her that I think would be so beneficial to our city as well is some type of a fine arts authority, and we talked briefly about it. We have a tremendous performing arts and fine arts community in Rapid City. in our budget talks the other day, we mentioned, or we identified several musical groups that have been performing in and around Rapid City, some of them 100 years. And we have a tremendous fine arts and performing arts groups, youth, adults in Rapid City, and they too bring a great amount of people to Rapid City. And people come to Rapid City just to interact with and hear and even perform with some of these groups. So once this project moves forward, I again encourage the thought of some sort of a fine arts authority or something that organizes our fine arts performing groups, our visual arts groups, to allow them to maximize just like the sports authority will do. Because there are a lot of similarities, organizing facilities, leaders, et cetera, that take place with that. So I encourage you folks to consider that down the road when we're ready to take a big next step. But it is a real thing and would be tremendous addition to what we're doing. Thank you.
All right, any more discussion? Motions on the floor to authorize this. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Kaufman, Director Baltzer, thank you very much for your time. Okay, and before we conclude, we're briefly going to go through our committee assignments. Mr. Jones, do you have anything to share?
The Humane Society Board of Directors is one of my assignments, and coming up on Sunday, September 4th, when they're getting ready to close the pools, is the Swim with Your Dog event. So if you are interested in that, come to the Jimmy Hilton Pool Sunday, September 4th. Bring your dog, dive in. It's a great fun event. It's a fundraiser for the Humane Society as well, and just always a great time. A few days ago, Councilman Stroman and I were honored to be at the grand opening and ribbon cutting of the new Big Lots store here in Rapid City. I even got to cut the ribbon. It was exciting. Working on a couple of sidewalk projects in our ward, as well as a weed issue, not the proposed legalized weed that's coming up, but weeds that grow through the ground. There was a street project done on Parkview Drive, and there's some concern about weeds and how they're being addressed from the project itself. So that's in the works, and counting on the street department to continue the support needed to get that wrapped up. And that is it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Roseland.
Thank you. I met with the West Boulevard Neighborhood Association. They are having a block party, blocking out 3 blocks, September 10th. I think it's from 4 to 8. There will be a beer tent. There will be live music from Tanner Johns, play areas for the kids. They'll have a bike race on West Boulevard, which makes, in the past, the kids very happy because they never get to have a race on West Boulevard. And so they have 4 hours to race bikes on West Boulevard. Cool. And they do that with big smiles on their face. And so, and the police department and the fire department will be involved in this also. Look forward to that. And so hopefully you can all come to the West Boulevard Neighborhood Block Party at September 10th at 4 to 8. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Solomon, anything to share?
Yeah, Ms. Kaufman mentioned the email that was sent, so I just pulled it up just to let you all know and the public know. On Tuesday, September 27th, 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., they're going to have the findings from the Sports Commission, from the study that they did, and the mayor and all the council are invited, so it's in your emails. Had the pleasure of doing a proclamation for Farmers Market Week. That was awesome. Our Farmers Market's amazing, isn't it? I really encourage folks to check it out, because one thing with food is there's only so much food in grocery stores. If you ever cut off your supply chain, you're going to be really grateful you have a farmer's market in place. Just have some mechanism in order to get locally sourced food and other items. So I think that's good. And the third thing I want to mention is we are in the budget process, and we know that we're adding 6 additional sworn police officers to the budget for next year. We currently have 22 openings as of this week for police officers. So the Rapid City Police Department has worked with a marketing firm to create rapidcitypolicejobs.com. This is a one-stop shop where you can find out everything you want to know about becoming a police officer. So from the starting wage and benefits to the process, how to apply, everything you would ever want to know is right there. And so that's how you know that $27.89 is the starting salary for police officer 1. That is very competitive with Sioux Falls, Box Elder, Spearfish, other communities. That was not always the case, but this council and the mayor and the police department did a good job of making sure that we stay competitive. But I think it's really important that we get people applying, and that Rapid City is friendly to our law enforcement, very grateful for them, that we do care about it, and that we want to do everything we can to get good applicants so that we have excellent officers. So rapidcitypolicejobs.com. Make sure you visit that if you are so inclined. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solomon. And real quickly, I'm the liaison for the Human Relations Commission. We started a pilot book club yesterday, opened at the Rapid City Library. Starting on that, and then they're also working on their website, which they hope to have completed before Native American Day in October. I don't have any more updates from the library as of yet. I meet with them in about 2 weeks. I've been assigned to the steering committee at the Rapid City Airport, and I am currently working on exit interviews for the Youth City Council. Their next meeting is Tuesday, September 13th, where I will be sharing those findings from the exit interviews. And last but not least, due to the Labor Day holiday, City Hall will be closed this Monday, September 5th, so our next City Council meeting will be on Tuesday, September 6th. That being said, I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Solomon. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you.
You are the last party in the conference. You will hear silence until the conference begins.